I wasn't supposed to find it. The little brass key sat tucked beneath a stack of old receipts in my father's desk, tied with a faded red string. I'd come home after his funeral to clear out the house, not to uncover ghosts. But there it was, small and deliberate, with one word etched into the tag. Basement. My father never let anyone go down there. Old tools, unsafe shelves, he'd say. His voice always clipped, final. As a kid, I used to press my ear against the basement door at night, hearing the faint hum of something mechanical, or maybe something alive. The house felt different now, hollow in a way silence can't explain. Dust motes floated in the late afternoon light as if time had paused just to watch me. I held the key tighter and walked to the basement door. The lock clicked like a sigh. The smell hit first, damp wood, metal, and something faintly sweet, like old cologne. I flicked the light switch, and a single bulb buzzed to life. Against the far wall sat a wooden chest, its corners rusted, its hinges bruised by age. I knelt down, my heartbeat loud enough to fill the room, and slid the key into the lock. It turned effortlessly. Inside were 7 envelopes, neatly stacked, each labeled in my father's handwriting. For my daughter, when I can't explain it myself. The first was dated April 12, 1998, the day I was born. I sat on the basement floor, legs folded, the envelopes in my lap like pieces of someone else's life. The papers smelled faintly of smoke and cedar, exactly like my father's study. The first letter was sealed with black wax, the kind you only see in old movies. My name was written across the front in his perfectly straight handwriting. For Evelyn. Start here. I hesitated. My hands weren't shaking yet, that came later. For a moment, I thought about putting it back, pretending I hadn't seen it. But curiosity doesn't negotiate with grief. I peeled the seal open carefully. The paper inside was yellowed but crisp, as if he'd written it knowing I'd find it one day. Evelyn, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I wish I could tell you everything in person, but the truth doesn't belong in small talk or funerals. You deserve more than what I gave you, more than half answers and bedtime stories that covered the cracks. He always wrote like he was building something methodical, confident. But there was something new in his words this time. Guilt. Your mother and I made choices before you were born that shaped everything you know. We built this life carefully, maybe too carefully. There's something downstairs that belongs to you, but you must understand I didn't hide it out of shame. I hid it because love and truth don't always share the same room. My pulse quickened. I scanned to the last line and my breath caught. When you're ready, open the red box under the stairs. That's where the story really begins. I looked up. There was a red box under the stairs. And suddenly, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. The red box wasn't really red anymore, more like rust with memories of paint. It was wedged under the bottom step, half buried in dust and cobwebs, as if the house itself had tried to forget it existed. I dragged it out slowly, coughing as the dust rose like old ghosts. The metal was cool against my palms, and a small brass latch held it shut. No lock this time. Just intent. For a long minute, I just stared at it. My father's last words echoed in my head. That's where the story really begins. I flipped the latch. Inside were a few small objects. A folded newspaper clipping dated June 14, 1992. A woman's silver bracelet engraved with initials, LR. And a hospital wristband with a name I'd never seen before. Baby girl, Rowan. I read it twice. My throat felt dry. Rowan. Not Hale. Not Evelyn. Rowan. I picked up the newspaper clipping. It was about a fire, Lakeview Hospital blaze. 2 dead, 1 infant missing. My stomach turned. The fire had happened 6 years before I was born. The same town. The same hospital where my mother used to work as a nurse. My pulse started racing so hard I could hear it. I reached for the next envelope from the chest. Number 2. The note on the front read simply, "For when you find the box." I tore it open. Evelyn, you were never supposed to carry someone else's tragedy. But when that hospital burned, so did the truth about who you are. I froze. The letter ended with one line that felt like thunder in a whisper. You weren't born into our family, you were rescued from it. I didn't move for a long time. The words blurred and unblurred as if the page was breathing. Rescued from it. The phrase looped through my head, wrong and right at the same time. The bracelet in the box caught the light, the engraving almost faded. LR. I turned it over and saw a tiny dent near the clasp, like someone had tried to pry it open. I'd seen that mark before. My mother wore a bracelet just like this when I was little. She said it was from a friend. Now I knew it was a lie. The newspaper clipping was wrinkled and yellow, but the headline stayed sharp. 2 dead, 1 infant missing after Lakeview fire. The article listed the victims, a nurse named Lydia Rowan and her husband Michael Rowan. Their baby was never found. I said the name out loud. Rowan. It sounded strange, heavier than mine, but it fit somewhere deep inside, like a puzzle piece that had been forced into the wrong place for years. I grabbed the next envelope from the stack. Number 3. The paper trembled as I unfolded it. Your mother, Lydia, worked the night shift at Lakeview. She wasn't supposed to be there that night, but she went in to cover for someone else. I was a firefighter then. I found her, holding you. She wouldn't let go, even when the flames came down. She was gone when I reached her. You were crying. Alive. I told myself I was saving you. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was just trying to fix something broken in myself. The next line made my chest ache. Your name wasn't Evelyn Hale. It was Rowan. Evelyn was the life I built to hide the one I stole. My fingers went numb. The page slipped from my hand and fluttered to the floor like something weightless, undeserving of the weight it carried. He stole me. Not adopted me. Not rescued. Stole. I wanted to be angry, wanted to scream, to break the silence that had always lived in that house, but all I could do was stare at the next thing inside the box. A photograph. It was old, water-stained, and folded down the middle. On one side, a woman stood in front of a hospital, smiling, holding a newborn wrapped in a white blanket. Her eyes were the same gray as mine. On the back, written in neat blue ink, Lydia and her miracle. The floor seemed to tilt under me. My chest felt too tight, my skin too small. I picked up the 4th envelope, the paper lighter, thinner, like it didn't want to exist. My father's handwriting had changed here, smaller, messier, trembling. If you've found this far, I know I've already lost your forgiveness. But you need to know what happened after that night. They said the baby hadn't survived the fire. I knew that wasn't true. I saw you breathing. When I brought you home, your mother agreed to raise you as ours. She said love would make it right. But lies grow roots. They don't die quietly. He ended with one line that felt like confession and prayer at once. You were never mine to keep. But after that night, I didn't know how to let you go. I closed the letter, my pulse uneven, the room smaller than before. In the corner, a small box I hadn't noticed before caught my eye, wooden, carved with initials, LR. And something inside it was ticking. The sound was faint, rhythmic, steady, almost polite, like a heartbeat trapped in wood. I hesitated before touching it, half afraid it would stop, half afraid it wouldn't. The initials LR were carved deep into the lid, the edges smoothed by years of being handled. I brushed off the dust and noticed a small latch on the front. It wasn't locked. When I lifted it open, the ticking grew louder. Inside lay a small pocket watch, its silver casing cracked, but still moving. The inside cover had a tiny photo, the same woman, Lydia, holding me as a baby. Underneath the watch, there was a folded note. It wasn't my father's handwriting this time. The script was softer, looped, almost elegant. If anyone ever finds this, tell her I tried to stay. Tell her I never meant to leave her behind. The ink was smudged, as if written in tears or smoke. I traced the name beneath it. Lydia Rowan. A cold ache spread through me, the kind that feels too heavy to cry through. This was my mother's handwriting. My real mother. The ticking of the watch grew louder, echoing in the quiet basement. I realized it wasn't just a watch. It was set to an exact time, 2:17 a.m., the time stamped in the newspaper article. The time the fire had started. And then, at that exact second, the ticking stopped. It wasn't broken. It ended. Something about that silence felt intentional, like Lydia had been waiting for me to hear it stop. Underneath the watch was one last slip of paper, thin as tissue, my father's handwriting faintly visible. There's one person left who knows everything, her sister. Find her before she finds you. The basement suddenly felt colder, not from the air, but from the way the silence changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It listened. Her sister. That meant somewhere out there, I had an aunt. Someone who'd spent 25 years wondering what happened to Lydia's baby, wondering if I was alive. I turned the note over. My father had written a name and an address. Margaret Rowan, 41, Ashridge Lane. I didn't recognize the street, but I knew the town. It was only 2 hours away. I sat there for a moment, trying to steady my breathing. Everything I thought I knew, birthdays, lullabies, my parents' wedding photos, suddenly felt like props from someone else's story. Still, I needed to know. I grabbed my coat, slipped the note and watched into my bag, and left before my courage could fade. The drive blurred. My mind was louder than the road. Every memory replayed in pieces. My father teaching me to ride a bike, my mother combing my hair before school, all of it tender, all of it poisoned with lies. Ashridge Lane was quiet, lined with old houses that leaned like they were tired of keeping secrets. Number 41 had ivy crawling up its porch and wind chimes that sang even when there was no wind. I knocked once. The door opened a few inches, and an elderly woman peered through the crack. Her eyes were the same gray as mine. She stared for a long moment, lips trembling, before whispering. "You look just like her." I swallowed. "Like who?" She opened the door wider. "Like my sister. Like Lydia." Margaret's eyes filled before I could even speak. She didn't ask who I was. She already knew. "Come in, sweetheart," she said softly, her voice breaking halfway through the word sweetheart. The living room smelled like dust and lavender. Framed photographs lined every wall, birthdays, Christmas mornings, 2 young women with matching smiles. One of them was Lydia. My mother. Margaret motioned for me to sit, her hands trembling as she poured tea into mismatched cups. "You found something, didn't you?" she said quietly. I nodded and handed her the folded note I'd found in the ticking box, Lydia's handwriting, her last words. Margaret held it like something sacred. "She did try to stay," she whispered. "They told us the baby died in the fire." I knew she didn't believe it. Lydia wouldn't stop searching. She said she felt her heart beat somewhere else. Her voice cracked. I thought grief made her crazy. I reached into my bag and pulled out the hospital wristband, "Baby girl Rowan." Margaret gasped, pressing her hands over her mouth. "Oh, God, that was you." I nodded, tears stinging. "He said he found me that night. My father. He took me home and called it rescue." Margaret shook her head slowly, eyes closing. "He didn't rescue you, child. He stole you from the ashes." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The clock on her mantel ticked steadily, unbothered by our breaking world. Finally, she reached across the table and took my hand. "There's one more thing you need to see," she said, standing carefully. She opened an old drawer under the window and pulled out a thin envelope sealed with red wax, the same as my father's. Written on the front, in faded ink, were 2 words. "For Evelyn." My name, Evelyn. Not Rowan. Not baby girl. The name he gave me, written in my real mother's hand. It didn't make sense at first. My father said he'd given me that name after he found me. But this envelope, this was older. The paper was yellowed, the edges brittle. Lydia had written my name long before he ever said it aloud. Margaret handed me the envelope with both hands, like she was passing something alive. "She wrote this before the fire," she whispered. "She left it in my kitchen the night she went back to work." I never opened it. I thought it was a will or a goodbye. I ran my thumb over the seal. It broke easily, as if it had been waiting for me. Inside was a single folded page. The handwriting was familiar now, the same careful script from the note in the red box. "My sweet Evelyn, if anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll listen to whoever finds you, but never forget to listen to yourself first. You were meant to live in light, not in the shadow of other people's choices. If you grow up and this reaches you, don't waste your life hating those who hurt you. They'll have to live with what they've done. You'll know me when you look in the mirror. The eyes you have are mine. The courage, that's yours." There was no signature, just a smudge of ink at the bottom that looked almost like a fingerprint. My hands shook as I folded the letter back up. She named me Evelyn, I whispered. Before he even found me. Margaret smiled sadly. Then maybe, all this time, part of her knew you'd come back. Outside, rain began to fall soft, cleansing, like the world itself had exhaled. For the first time, I didn't feel stolen. I felt found. The rain turned heavier, streaking down Margaret's window like the sky had decided to cry for all of us. She sat across from me, her teacup untouched, her eyes never leaving my face. You look just like her when you're about to be brave, she said quietly. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like someone's accident or secret. I felt like a continuation. I looked down at the letter again, Lydia's word soft and alive between my fingers. I could almost hear her voice, steady, kind, stubborn enough to survive in me all these years. Margaret reached into her cardigan pocket and handed me something small, the silver bracelet I'd found in my father's box, now polished clean. Keep it, she said. It belongs to both of you now. The initials LR glimmered faintly under the lamplight. I clasped it around my wrist, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a mystery. It felt like home. I don't hate him, I said finally. My father. I don't forgive him, not yet. But I think I understand him. Margaret nodded. Understanding isn't forgiveness, she said. It's just the part that lets you stop carrying their fire. We sat there until the rain slowed, until silence filled the room, not heavy, not empty, just quiet in a way that meant something. Before I left, I looked around the little house one more time, the photos, the ticking clock, the faint hum of peace that only exists where truth finally lands. When I stepped outside, the air smelled clean, sharp, and new. The storm had passed. The road shimmered under the streetlights like a path being rewritten. I whispered to the wind, softly, almost like a prayer. I wasn't rescued. I wasn't stolen. I was found twice. And this time, when I closed the door behind me, it didn't sound like an ending. It sounded like freedom.